That I suspect very strongly is what the crowned lapwings were shouting at. Yes, the plains do not appear to be a great seething mass of life at the moment. Let's just get past these fellows and then we'll head across to the west and see if we can't find a Temminck's courser or two. Right, let's go across to Brent and get an update from him.
So we know where Karula's cubs are. We're not sure where Karula is. So we had tracks of her from last night, this morning in this area, quite close to the southern boundary. So we've just come back here and we're just checking all these big game paths, making sure her tracks don't come this way. I think she's a bit further to the east, but Herb's checking that side, so we're gonna check through here. Those elephants we've heard, unfortunately, they moved south across our southern boundary. I was really hoping that Queen Karula possibly had a kill here around the Mawati. We did hear baboons alarm calling to the south of our southern edge of traverse area very early this morning. Maybe they spotted her. Let's go and check this big path here. So I heard there someone would want to see James Ritchie wants to see some tracks. What species of track was that again? Duiker tracks. Okay, James, I'll keep a close lookout for duiker tracks for you. I just want to check up into this riverine thicket. I mean, this is ideal hunting territory for Queen Karula. She would have zigged and zagged through these thickets looking for duiker. So hopefully we will find a duiker track. So we're not very far from where those cubs are. We're probably about 800 meters. Hi, Justin. Now, Justin's wondering what my least favorite thing about exploring the outdoors is. Justin, it's possibly being wet and cold. So sometimes we get rained on and it's thoroughly unpleasant. Okay, so we're coming right up to the edge of the Mawati now. You through, Dave? There we go. Now, the Mawati is the biggest of our little river systems, and it's a dry creek bed. And leopards really like these type of areas. Oh, Natal Franklin bursting out of undercover. I think they probably give us the most skriks. Now, skrik is the Afrikaans word for a fright while we're out on foot. And we're just going to take a moment here and we're going to sit here and just listen to all the birds. But James has got a little predator to show you, but we'll be back a little later.
Reading about them quickly. I think little critter is a bit insulting to what that is. That is Canis mesomelis, everybody, the black-backed jackal. We saw his partner chasing crowned lapwings just now. In fact, I'm just watching. I can see him still, but I'm not going to ask Brian to move the camera because he's in the woodland and foraging about the place. Now, they occur in little pairs like this, and they don't really like this sort of weather, so he'll lie there and try and remain warm. That could be the lady, it could be the man of the monogamous pair that they form. Sometimes they form sort of a pack, but not largely it's these monogamous pairs. And you can just hear complete silence all around us. So just to give you an idea how big it is, I mean they weigh somewhere between, the book says to me here, between 6.5 and 13.5 kilograms. I mean, that seems like a ridiculous range. I suspect in this area that they are sitting at roughly 8 kilograms or so. So that's just under 20 pounds. So they're not very big. They're about the sort of height, I guess, of what, like a small Alsatian. Would you say, Brian?
Yeah.
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 Smallish Alsatian and a bit slighter. They don't have quite the bulk, but they are really good at knocking about the place. They're omnivorous, they'll eat anything they can. They're quick and they are very cunning. And this is why, of course, jackals are known, much like foxes around the world, as being cunning, and sometimes they're known as villains in folk tales and stories. That particular one doesn't look particularly villainous, does it? Doesn't look like it's about to rob a bank or steal something. Justin, you want me to do an impression of a jackal? You mean of a jackal's call? Well, I can try. I mean, I think that jackal will probably run away, so if it does, it's your fault, Justin. Where are those guests behind us? Okay, here we go, Justin. How's that, Brian?
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Incredible.
You can see the jackal is deeply, deeply affected by what I just said. It's lying there going, really? Thank you, Justin, for making an ass of me. I suppose I do that for myself. Canis mesomelis, the black-backed jackal. Now, while it sits there, there are a couple of interesting birds here on the right-hand side, Brian. I might trouble you with that long lens of yours. I think there is a pipit. Now, we all know about how lovely pipits are, don't we? They're just sitting on the clearings over there. They're the completely indistinct brown bird. Now we need to try and ooh, that might be a striped pipit. You see it? That's it. Super zoom in. You super zoomed. Goodness, he's not very big then, is he? No, not a very large fellow. Now, just have a good look at him, and once he's disappeared from frame, we will ascertain whether he is in fact a striped pipit or not. There are two striped pipits here, Brian. Two striped pipit. I also thought I may have seen a Temminck's courser, but I don't think I did. I think it was just that pipit running speedily across the clearings. Right, now you keep an eye on him. I will retrieve my book and see if I can decide whether that is indeed a striped pipit. Not common. And he's coming so close, he's going to be full frame soon. I think Brent was thinking that he'd seen one here a few days ago. Grassveld pipit, mountain wood, plain backed. You see, I don't think that is a. It's a. You know what that is? It is a buffy pipit, everybody. A buffy pipit. That's really quite special. I'm not sure I've seen that bird before. Oh no, I have. I've seen it in Etosha. Not a buffy pipit. No, I'm talking rubbish. Sorry, it wasn't. It's not a buffy pipit. It's a grassveld or African pipit. African pipit, not particularly astounding. Dash. That's the standard issue one. I'm surprised by that. Oh well. Grassveld or African pipit. Definitely not buffy. I shall just make sure on my bird application. Now you can see, everyone, the light is fading, and that is not because night time is falling, it is because this front is now starting to take hold. Oh, there it goes, across the road. Brian, have you heard the story, Why Did the Pipit Cross the
I
Road?
haven't.
Do you know why it did?
No.
It was to find the termite on the other side.
Wonderful.
Now, I've just heard some disturbing news that Steph is in the final control, which means that obviously we're going to have to answer that utterly appalling joke when we get home. Sorry for that, Brian.
That's okay.
African pipit. Let me just quickly find this thing. It's interesting, you know, it's not a striped pipit. Do you know why not, Brian?
Why?
Indeed, because there is no such thing as a striped pipit. Where I got that from, I couldn't begin to tell you. No, there is a striped pipit. There is. Phew. But that's not it. No, that's the African pipit, everybody. I'm not even going to show you a picture of it because you've had such a really good view of it there. So there's no real point. African pipit, and I think we're going to press on now and see what else we can find. We're going to go west through the rest of the clearings, and then we'll press on. Oh, the jackal has absconded, Brian. It might be stalking you from behind. While we try and find the jackal, you see if you can try and find Brent.
Fortunately, I'm quite easy to find, but we're in the Mwati riverbed now, and you can see this is a big clay wall that's been eaten out, and there's some very interesting stuff happening in this clay wall. Now, if we have a look where my stick is there, see that perfectly round hole in the clay? Now, that is where a dung beetle's dung ball. We've seen the dung balls above the ground. We've seen what they look like when they get abandoned, but there we go. So there was a dung ball in here, and obviously as this bank collapses, that dung ball would have unfortunately fallen out of the bank, and the tunnel in would have probably been somewhere over here, but that's the back side of the dung wall. Now above we see there's a spike thorn, and just to give you an idea how desperate plants can be for water, and we can see different roots coming out here, and there's some more here. And if we keep going down, still from the spike thorn, going down into the water table at the bottom of the river. Isn't that absolutely amazing? Now, I'm 6'3", and probably what's another half of me up there. So another 3.
Here we go. Unfortunately, the Brent appears to have frozen, and okay, this time it really is the last view we are going to have of them. Ephraim's on his way, as is yours, and we're just going to enjoy the last few moments with the last. Jean-Ray actually spotted the cub. We lost them completely for a little while, and the incredible spotting skills of Jean-Ray, he has managed to relocate at least one of them for us. I have no idea. Look at that. Jean-Ray, now you're just showing off. Wait, hold on, what? Ah, there we go. Ephraim, with his marvellous sense of humour, just called in a... Tex said, what have you got there? He said, oh, I've got Madash. So I was frantically moving, and then he went, Lutu, nothing. So, you know, minor panic there for a moment, but that's okay. No wild dog, by the way. Madash means wild dog. So we can stay with our little cubs and watch them. There are no wild dogs. It was just a joke. You're welcome to come join us. I'll show you where they are, and then I'll pull out. Whew. You can't cry wild dog. It's like the boy who cried wolf, except completely different. Okay, Guys, here comes yours. He is approaching. I'm going to have to do some serious directing in order to show him exactly where the cub is. And in fact, I think I have to move in order to give him the opportunity to see where they are. So while we do that, while we do some negotiations and chat to Ephraim, let's go back to Brent, who has unfrozen on bushwalk.
So we are no longer frozen. We've thawed quite quickly, and we've moved from that little spike thorn root system to a massive, much bigger root system, and there's 3 or 4 knob thorns up above here. Now these knob thorns, I think, come rainy season are going to be in the river. Now, very interesting thing is, apart from being on a bank that's about to fall down, you can see the elephants have broken and fed off these roots as well. So you can see a knob thorn's got a tap root system. So very few roots up on the top, and it's got massive central root coming down. Now this is a small one. I'm sure there's a couple in. And what that's going to do is cause these trees to fall out of the bank. Now the little nest or cocoon that Herbie found in here, and I've had a look, it's no longer active, so we can take it out. Now, there we go. If any of you have ever had silkworms, this will look quite familiar. So it's a butterfly or a moth nest. Now, I think that this has been attacked. So you can see there's a hole. Normally, if it had come out by itself, this top little thing would have opened and the whole animal would have crawled out. A little hole like that, I think there's a little predator that's managed to get inside there. And we're going to see if there's any remnant casings inside. Just give me a second, let me get my knife out. And I think we're going to go with the skizzers today for opening this one up. A little bit more delicate than using a big blade. There we go. Make sure we don't lose anything from inside. So there we go. Look at that. So as I said, there's that little cocoon, and it's been attacked by what looks to be a little spider. So it is dead, and that little parasite or predator has made a hole in there and then come inside and literally eaten. I'm going to open up. Let's just try to get the thing out. Whoopsie. Oh, shame. So normally, there we go.
A little bit lower.
A little bit lower. You can see, look at that. Now, normally this would obviously be moist and whatnot, so that little predator has gone. You can see the wings starting to form. So it wasn't too far from coming out, but now you can see, if I break here, the whole inside has been eaten by something. So it was probably very close to reaching adulthood when a little, I'm not even sure what it could be. It could be a little spider. It could be any little insect that has managed to burrow inside there and eat the whole thing. Isn't that absolutely amazing? And you can, I mean, look at this. The wings were starting to form even. So looking at what's formed here, I think it's more than likely a moth, not a butterfly. But unfortunately, it got found out by a little predator before it was able to reach adulthood. Now, isn't that amazing? I think where did I drop that now? You see where I dropped the outside of the case? Well, I'll find it. Now, I'm going to take this home, actually. Or Herbie spotted where I dropped it, maybe. Oh, no, there it is. I see it. So I'm actually going to take this home. I think this is absolutely fascinating. There we go. Now, it's not often we get to see stuff like that. And normally, if this had been closed, I wouldn't have opened it at all, because it would mean that the little critter was still alive inside. But isn't that absolutely fascinating? Now, as fun as it is looking at these gorgeous little things like this, James has got something a bit hairier and a bit scarier.
Oh, shoot. I'll tell you why I said, oh, shoot, just now, everybody. But there, for the meantime, is a lion. And he was just lying straight there, doing absolutely nothing as we drove past. He deigned to open his eyes, which was quite kind of him. Now, those of you who have been so very good at identifying which male lions we've been seeing, perhaps you could tell me who you think this is. I'm going to assume it's a Birmingham fellow. He does have that distinctive scarring on his nose. I'm going forward by mistake. There's two scars above his right nostril. Brian, can you hear the car creaking like Jan van Riebeck's ship? Not sure why it's doing that, everyone. The wheel might fall off. Anyway. So this, I think, is pretty much certainly one of the Birminghams. And he has probably been here since the early hours of this morning. Now, I know that the Styx Pride were on Nkoro earlier on. Perhaps he was tracking them during the night and became so exhausted by the thought of it all that he just went to sleep here. He looks completely comfortable. It's a totally recumbent cat. There were 4 lionesses on Buffelshoek Dam, on Buffelshoek today. That's not the dam, that's the property to the north of Djuma. And they went off north as well. They seem to be the Talamati Pride, and that means that we don't know where the rest of the Nkuhumas are with their 3 cubs. They left that buffalo kill yesterday on Arathusa after they were set upon by the hyenas, probably left in order to look after the cubs rather than because they felt they couldn't defend their kill. So they went off. We haven't seen them since. I don't think they were seen last night again. I certainly haven't heard any reports of that. And so, yeah, it's difficult to say where they are. We know that the tiny baby little cubs are in the same place as they were yesterday. That was a very special kind of, well, I don't know. How would you describe it, Brian, that sighting of those tiny little things?
I don't actually know.
It is rather heartwarming.
It is.
There's definitely been a massive cub and cuteness overload with those little leopards today. And seemingly being much more playful today. It's quite nice, isn't it? Christopher, you're in Arizona and you're wondering about how hard a lioness will fight to look after her cubs when attacked by a strange male lion. Christopher, the answer is as hard as it takes, or as hard as she can, without getting injured herself. So she can't afford to be injured, and that's very important, because if she gets injured, well, then the cubs die anyway. So there's no point in her risking her life in order to save them. And so, well, we like to think of lionesses as being ferocious mothers, and they are indeed. If they're actually faced with the chance of becoming injured themselves, or certainly with a chance of death themselves, they will normally let the cubs go to the males. That certainly happened with the Styx Pride. And interestingly, the lionesses that copped it the worst when the Birmingham boys came into this area were the Nkuhuma lionesses. And they, I think these chaps killed 3 of them, if I'm not mistaken. The Birminghams killed 3 Nkuhuma lionesses on their arrival in this area in winter last year. And they didn't have any cubs. They had 2 that were just over a year old, one of which was killed. In fact, I think they were both killed. Gosh, I can't even remember. Isn't that terrible? Because we didn't actually ever see it, but I think they were both killed. And I think that the fighting that ensued as a result of that resulted in a few of the others losing their lives too. So, not always. The textbooks will tell you, Christopher, that they won't risk their lives. Clearly, in the case of the Nkuhuma Pride, it's possible that they were trying to risk their lives, and may have been risking their lives for Junior, their young male, who now seems to have set up a little coalition of his own. And I walk in the rain. You're wondering if Junior has been seen lately. I walk in the rain. I am not aware that he's been seen lately, no. And that's a very good thing. We don't want him in this area because these guys will take him out eventually. We also want him to go away from his natal pride, find a pride that is unrelated to him, set up shop there, and hopefully sire his own cubs over that way. That would be much better for us. So I'm not sad. Well, I am sad that we haven't seen him because I think he's going to grow into a magnificent lion like those Matumbas, one of whom is his father. They are much bigger than these fellows. They're not quite as aggressive or as willing to take on others as the Birminghams were, but certainly they are magnificent looking creatures, and I think Junior's going to be much the same. His coalition partner slightly less, apparently slightly less impressive to look at, but still quite young, and probably the offspring of the Majingalan, if I'm not mistaken. So thank you to most of you agreeing that this is Birmingham number 2. I think I remember that scarring just above his right nostril as being Birmingham number 2. So thank you very much for that. I've no doubt there'll be some disagreement. There always is a little bit, because they're not that easy to tell apart, because we don't see them every day. You'd never confuse Karula for Shadow. Well, not after looking at them for 5 minutes. But these chaps you can confuse, and they will get new scarring. Their noses will change colour, their manes will change colour the whole time. So it's not always that easy. Wonder what he thinks about being called number 2. What do you think, Brian?
I'm sure he's quite chuffed about it.
Alright, we're going to leave this area, this lion sleeping recumbently where he is on the southern boundary, while we make our way back towards Djuma under these greying skies. Let us head across to Jamie the Antelope Patterson and see what she has to tell you.
Wednesday morning. Just your average day out here in the bush. I don't think there's ever a day where I get up in the morning and think, gosh, I actually really don't want to go to work today. That never happens. I am well aware of how fortunate that truly makes me. Right, now we have left the cubs, as you can see, finally, after telling you I would for ages and ages. We have now left them to Yos and to Ephraim to keep an eye on them and to see whether or not there's any sign of Karula. Now, her last tracks went into this block where these impala are currently standing. I don't think she's still here, but I'm not 100% certain about that, but I'll explain to you why I feel that way. First of all, because the elephants have wandered through here, and I think they would have pushed her out. Secondly, we're not far from the cubs at all, and the entire time that we've been sitting there, we haven't heard one serious alarm call. And I mean, now we can clearly see these impala have been wandering about here all morning. They haven't picked up on her. The squirrel that was alarm calling earlier, I don't think was frantically calling it a leopard. And the go-away birds were just doing their morning call. So nothing's alarm called here. Unless she's caught something and she's snacking on it before she goes to fetch her cubs. Perhaps knowing that once she does fetch them, the little ravenous beings will descend upon it, and she will have to wait once again to have a meal. She has been putting in a lot of hard work. But the impala are too relaxed. This is exactly where Ephraim described where her tracks went in. I think she's a bit further towards Leadwood. And my apologies, this morning I thought that Herbert had seen her. He hadn't seen her, he'd seen her tracks on Leadwood, not Karula herself. So I thought that he'd seen her. I couldn't quite hear, and obviously it was just the tracks. I think she's further east, hiding out somewhere there. Not hiding out, hunting somewhere there. I kind of don't want to go too far away from this area because I want to be around when she comes back to fetch the cubs so that we can keep track of where she goes and hopefully then have her on the kill with the cubs this afternoon for the sunset safari. While we plan out what we're going to do, maybe extend our search slightly further afield, let's go over to Brent, who has found some interesting footprints in the sand for you.
James Richard requested a Diker track for his track collection, and we've got a very fresh one here. So there we go. You can see how small it is next to my finger. And there we go, the two cloves of the hoof, and heading straight to a jackalberry tree where there's a bit of fruit. So they really like the jackalberry fruit. So this is from early this morning, but there we go, a Diker track. Now really, I'd say not more than an hour or two old. You can see how the ground's a slightly darker color. Now if I take my finger and I flick, you can see that slight darkness from the ground that's been not exposed to as much sun, and the ground that sits on the top obviously gets not burnt but lightened by the sun. So when you dig a little bit, you get that darker coloration. You can see that on the Diker track, and that's how we know it's really fresh. But we're walking in one of my favorite types of bushveld, and it's called it's a floodplain basically. So if we have a quick wider look around us, you can see there's the Mawati River, and you can see there's the high bank, and we're on the floodplain. So this is an area where lots of nutrient rich soil grows. So during the summer months, the grass will be really high and thick here, and you get some really incredible trees in these areas. But also if we swing around and we look where the really big trees are, and they're all in a line. So there's a wonderful big jackalberry going on like that, and if we look carefully, you can see how we go from flat ground up to high ground. Now there's your 100-year flood mark. So only normally once every 100 years will the water go above that flood mark. And you can see, if we keep going, the big trees, they're all sitting on that 100-year flood mark. They're not sitting right in the river. Now, it's been probably a long time since the water got that high. And we can tell that by the amount of bush and build-up on this floodplain area. And occasionally some of the bigger and stronger trees with good root systems will be able to survive the floods, and we can see some big leadwoods, some big knobthorns up ahead. So let's keep going along the floodplain. So Judy H is wondering, I think it was ginkgo trees. Are they present in our traverse area? I'm not actually sure of a ginkgo tree. I don't know it. So I'm guessing they're probably not present in our traverse area. I could be wrong. I do know most of the tree species, but not all of them. And one of the other really cool trees we get around here, let's go have a look at it. It's called a low-felt or Transvaal saffron. And the leaves actually smell like saffron. And then that's actually quite a pretty view if we come here before we go to the saffron tree. Now there's the epitome of a tracker, out in the riverbed, looking for tracks, scouting ahead. See, Herbie doesn't even know he's on camera at the moment. Smile, Herbie. There we go. Okay, let's go look at the saffron tree. Let's try and get a leaf from it. I'll bring it to you, Dave. And the saffrons are starting to flower already. Oh, gorgeous. Now, the flowers are still a little bit green, so they haven't opened yet. And we can see them there. So tiny little flowers on the saffron. Now, if I crush these leaves up a bit, and oops, the flowers a bit. Absolutely wonderful smell.
Oh dearie me, it appears as though you have frozen on bushwalk. The reason I'm giggling is because Kirsty in my ear is in absolute hysterics. I don't know what just happened, or the way perhaps Brent froze with a funny face or something. I don't know, but either way, there's something seriously funny. Did you hear that?
Froze with him putting leaves up his nose.
Oh, right. I see. So it froze with Brent putting leaves up his nose. Now I understand the hilarity.
Screenshots, please.
Screenshots, everybody, please. You can send them through to jamie.patterson4 on Twitter. I would very much appreciate those. In the meantime, your arrival is perfectly timed because we've just come upon the herd of elephants that we've been listening to all morning while we've been with those adorable little cubs. I'm still laughing now at the idea of Brent with leaves up his nose and completely frozen. You know what? It is remarkable. We do review sessions. As we watch this little Ellie, we do review sessions twice a week to improve upon various aspects of our performance. And invariably you are paused at some kind of horrendous angle, pulling some kind of horrific face. That will be one to add to the collection. Luckily we've got these lovely elephants to rid us of that image so that it doesn't stay with us for the rest of the morning. There's actually quite a few of them about. We heard them, as I said, rustling while we were with Karula and her cubs. We're going to try and sneak up a little bit closer. I just didn't want to separate mom and baby. So we've got one here that's about 2.5 years of age. Looks like a little bull. Okay, let's go forward a bit and I'll see if we can't get you a better view. I'm just making sure that there's no other elephants around me before we go forward. Hello, guys. I don't suppose you've seen a leopard, have you? Oh, whoopsie daisies. About to bump into Ephraim. Ephraim, do you mind if I join you? I think he said no problem. Here we go. An interesting little pattern that the female has on her ear. She's got a couple of nicks and folds in there that will make her forever identifiable to all of us. And after all of the excitement of the morning, a peaceful elephant moment is exactly what we need. Just it completes the morning, rounds it all off for us. You can hear a rustling about. Life is very tricky for our elephants at the moment, and we spoke about this yesterday at an elephant sighting around Buffelshoek Dam, about the fact that their bones are becoming more and more prominent. From their spines to their hip bones, they're still fine. They've still got plenty of reserves left to keep them going, but they are showing a loss of condition. It's becoming clearer and clearer every day. And it is something that is, we've got the joy of the cubs over the next few months, and that's going to be something that will forever be incredibly special. We're also going to have some very tragic scenes play out, and hopefully we're all really hoping that the rains do come when we need them, which should be in around October. It's going to be the hardest time to sit and watch animals like elephants desperately searching for food. The trees, though, are the saviors. With their deep root systems, access to underground nutrients, and their own way of converting and storing the nutrients that they utilize, the trees will be the savior of a great deal of animals. And then tubers and root systems as well will also be what the elephants are constantly looking for. Mom keeps shuffling away. Definitely not the best view of an elephant we've ever had. Let's try and go around the corner, and we might be able to see the rest of the herd as well. And while we do that and get another view of our exceptionally large mammals, James has got another exceptionally large mammal.
Try and guess from that view, everybody, what we are looking at. It is not a Doberman Pinscher. It is not a polo pony. Indeed, Brian, it is a buffalo. And unfortunately that buffalo has had its tail chewed off by ticks. And you can see him wagging ineffectually at the sort of, I don't know what he's doing, he's sort of scratching, I guess. Here's a one in slightly finer fettle. He has all of his appendages intact. And he's eating, this is quite interesting, he's now browsing almost exclusively on the round-leafed teak. Now try and see, is he eating round-leaf teak fresh leaves, or is he picking at the old ones? He's pretty much taking everything, isn't he? Now this is not a buffalo's preferred forage by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's taking the slightly yellower ones, you know. I'm not sure that he's taking the very... Well, there's not much green left there, is there? There he is, going straight on to the plain green ones there, Brian. Exactly as I predicted he wouldn't do. It's nice to be 100% wrong sometimes as opposed to just slightly, because then there's no excuse to make, you know?
Keeps you on your toes.
Exactly. Very long tongue. Very useful, of course. That's how they graze. They don't actually bite the grass and the forage off with their teeth. They use their tongues. There's another one eating strychnos leaves off to the right hand side. Oh, hello. Yes. Good day. He is very unimpressed with Brian for some reason. Brian, did you think a bad thought about him?
I didn't.
They really do look so deeply morose, especially at this time of the year. And especially when they're having to eat what they don't want to eat. Now that one is eating Strychnos madagascarensis. That, of course, is the black monkey orange, these scraggly bushes. And he's just trying to pick off a few of those leaves. But if you look at them, they're not in bad nick. That guy's not quite in as good a nick as the one that doesn't like Brian in front of us. You can see his hips there. But the chap next to us, it looks very fat and full and not, well, he looks deeply unhappy, but all buffalo look deeply unhappy. But he seems to be doing absolutely fine. Which I think is quite impressive. See, his hips are definitely not nearly as pronounced as the other one. As he eats his round-leafed teak. I don't know why they don't eat them all the time. I assume that there's some kind of chemical defense in them that makes them taste not so nice. Bara, an interesting one from you. You say you're curious to know why it is that grass has got more nutrients in it than tree leaves. It's not so much that, Bara, as it is the other things that go with leaves. Leaves often have got chemical, or tree leaves have often got chemical compounds that defend them, which makes them toxic far more often than grass leaves are toxic. Yes, you do get grass leaves with chemical toxins in them, but nothing like the ones that you do in leaves that we have here. And I think the chemical makeup of the cells within the tree leaves versus the grass leaves is also quite a lot different. And so it's the nutrients are just different. I think you'll find a higher protein content in tree leaves, but you'll probably find that the chemical compounds that defend them against browsers make them largely unpalatable and toxic in many cases. And if we look at these, the ones that buffalo's eating there, the round-leaf teak, they've got a very, very waxy substance on the top of the leaf. I would get out and get you one, but he might take offense and attack me severely, which wouldn't be very nice. I will get one. While you look at that one, I'll sneak out this side of the car, stealthily like a leopard, and I'll get you a piece of what he's eating, and I'll show you the waxy cuticle, which I think, ooh, Brian, just behind this tree, I've just got out of the car and noticed them. They haven't noticed me. Are some warthogs. Can you see them?
Oh, wow.
They're right here. And oh, the little one's just noticed me. He hasn't noticed that I'm out of the car yet, though. Can you even see him?
No.
Not really. I can't move the car, everyone. But you might just be able to hear them chewing. Here comes a little one on the right-hand side now. They're only standing about 10 meters from me, and I'm standing on the ground out of the vehicle. And they, of course, are not eating. They are not eating the roundleaf teak. They have to eat, try and find bits of grass and the roots underneath the grass to eat. Probably they haven't noticed me standing next to the car. You see him digging there with his feet, digging with his snout. Or her snout, that's a little teenage warthog. The mother is either deeply used to people, probably from being in a camp, or she just hasn't noticed me. But it's not nice not to be noticed, you know. It makes one feel short and insignificant. This is wonderful. I'm just going to see what they do. They haven't run off by any means. I mean, they've just kind of wandered gently across the road to where the Doberman buffalo and his friends are. Now she's a little bit suspicious. And them tusks is quite formidable. But as she starts chewing again, you can see she's completely relaxed. Beautiful. That's really nice, everyone. Especially that they didn't run away. It always makes me feel quite honoured when an animal sees you, and especially when you're on foot and doesn't run away, just gets on with its life. These watergeese also don't look in too bad a condition, but I was driving to Hoedspruit 2 days ago, and along that there's a main road that goes along there, and it's next to a game reserve, and many warthogs had escaped from the reserve, and they were eating on the sort of a very wide grass verge there because there was just no grass left. I don't know if you can hear them eating away. There you can see the little wart underneath her eye, and the male much bigger than that. She doesn't have the most feminine eye, does she, Brian?
No.
Still, she is a pig. And amazing colours with the copper of the roundleaf teak there. Eating the rhizomes and stolons and underground bits and pieces there. It's wonderful. The breeze has kind of dropped a bit, but this front is definitely covering us over now, and I think this afternoon could be quite chilly. And of course in the cold the warthogs don't like it so much. They have to go and live. They have to go and live in the warmth of a nice termite mound. Safari Dean, you say it's much more entertaining watching herbivores eat during a drought. I'm assuming you mean than during when it isn't a drought, perhaps? It is interesting indeed, I mean, trying to see what they eat and how they get by, and in the same way as I was saying about about those birds and how on earth they survive with what little there is to eat, you'd think that the herbivores, you know, if you look around us, you'd think they'd really be struggling to find anything to eat, but at the moment there's still none of them that are looking particularly ropey. And they'll tell you that warthogs are the first to feel the effects of a drought. I think these guys are looking just fine. Very nice. Now, Brian, if you have a look here at this leaf that I retrieved at great personal risk to my safety. That's what I do, you know, Brian. Yes. There is the round leaf teak, and what I'll do is, if I just run my nail along it, what I've done there is broken the waxy cuticle that you can see. Can you see that? That sort of dark colour. And that just makes it probably slightly unpalatable, and I suspect it also makes it fairly toxic for animals to eat too extensively, especially when it's fresh and it isn't in this sort of a drying, wintry state. All right. Would you like a taste, Brian?
I'd love a taste.
No, I'm sure you would.
Thank you.
What do you think's for breakfast today? Is it fry-up today?
No.
No, it isn't. It's muffin day, isn't it?
Some fruit.
I will be having coffee and siege then.
So waxy.
It is quite waxy. Phew. All right, on we go. That's all that talk of foods made me very hungry for me seeds. On we go. I'm going to call that lion in for Ephraim. Except he seems to be on the radio. Alright, Jamie has got the leopard cubs again.
We've got a really special surprise for you. We figured that since all is quiet here, it would be fine for us to come and rejoin this particular sighting and just enjoy some time spent with Karula's little ones, in the hope that we are here. Oh, what was that? Was that just a big yawn? In the hope that we are here when Mom comes back to collect them. It does seem as though she has crossed south at the Mulwati drainage line. Well, hopefully she does make a kill, either way for these little ones, but hopefully she decides to make a kill, or is lucky making a kill on Djuma rather than to the south of our boundary. So what that means for uninitiated viewers is we cannot go absolutely everywhere. We've got certain places we can go, and it looks as though she has crossed in a river system outside of the place that we can go. So we can't follow up on her there. She's probably desperately hunting away. It looks like we've got Hosanna there. Though it's very hard to tell. I can't see completely. I don't know if Chandra, if you agree or if you...
I think so.
I think so too. I think little sis is hidden behind the tree off to the right. You won't be able to see Shongile for now. I think we've got the little male here. Having a jolly good clean and slightly more restful than when we last saw them, where they were. I think they've tired themselves out, all of that playing first thing in the morning. And hello once again to Justin, who is looking a little bit ahead in time, and we've spoken a lot about the potential independence of these cubs when it occurs, and Justin's wondering when will Shongile, ergo when does a female leopard, when is it first ready to have its first set of cubs? The answer is usually between 2 to 2.5 years of age is when they are ready, they've established themselves a territory and they are ready to reproduce. Some individuals might start going into heat or into estrus earlier than that, but chances are it's going to be a false estrus, and if they do have cubs, because they haven't established themselves a territory yet, the chances of survival are a little bit lower. But it's around 2.5 years old that they will start to have their first set of cubs. I mean, if you think about it, Shadow must be nearly 10, Shadow and Tundi, and Karula is 12, so she had them just when she was just over 2 years old, according to that mathematics. That, of course, would be the older siblings of these two little bundles of mischief. Obviously, we're very far away at the moment, which is exactly where we want to be. We're definitely not going to try for getting any closer. And we're going to be as quiet as possible. That's your foot, little one. And there he's going to go for little sister. I keep calling you little sister there. Oopsie, sorry, that was my fault, not Chandre's. I haven't actually lifted my foot off the brake, which I'm going to do now, and it's not Chandre's fault. There we go. That hasn't really helped any. I was a bit concerned I was going to crash into yours. Now, there's a chance, if Karula does kill something south of the boundary, that this will be... we won't have any luck following up on the sunset safari, because she might come and fetch them and move them to the south. We won't know until we head back out here in a few hours. Nevertheless, I definitely think this so far has been my best sighting of these cubs. To see them barrel about and play has been absolutely extraordinary. And also, there's such a contrast to when we first started seeing them at around, they were about 2 months of age, where they were slinking and a little bit scared of everything around them, which of course makes sense. Everything's a bit terrifying when you are a very tiny leopard cub. But to see them now, as comfortable as they are, completely ignoring us, and you understand how quiet and patient and very careful work will eventually result in the most extraordinary leopard sightings with very little impact on the animal themselves. And that, in turn, is essential to their survival, because that is what makes conservation areas like this attractive to tourists, and that, in turn, is what brings in the financial requirements that a place like this needs to protect it and to run it. Oh, so flexible. Doing a little bit of yoga, foot overhead. Now, earlier on, we not only saw them playing, but we saw their first hunting attempt, or at least our first time seeing a hunting attempt. And James Richard, you were wondering, when they tried to tackle the spurfowl, the birds that they were trying to hunt, would those birds be capable of inflicting any kind of serious damage? Probably not. I mean, it's unlikely. Oh, are you going to go? I'm going to slide forward. There we go. How marvellous. James, it's very, very unlikely that they would have been able to inflict damage, only if they'd hit a vulnerable spot like an eye. So potentially the spurfowl, the name spurfowl, comes from the spur on the back of the leg, particularly prominent on the male. And it's only really if that had hit a cub in the eye that they would have done serious damage. But despite their size, these little creatures are incredibly stocky and very powerful. I promise you now, even though they're about the size or just a little bit larger than your average domestic house cat, you would not want to be involved in a game with these two. Might seem like a wonderful idea, very, very cute, but they are phenomenally strong. Those claws are sharp as spears, or knives, that makes more sense, and their teeth are incredibly pointy little things. You don't want to be involved in an altercation. Right, from one baby to a baby of a different kind, and certainly a different size, let's head back over to James.
There are some elephants, everybody, and that is the little tiny baby elephant, probably only standing about 4 feet off the ground. So very small. definitely less than a year old, and Mum is just behind feeding, and behind her, or sort of in front of her and behind us, 3 others of this little herd that are feeding through the winter woodland. Isn't that nice? Very relaxed. They hardly even reacted as we came up here. And they're very close by, those things. They're what, about maybe 15 meters from us? I was astounded by how few elephants we saw today. I thought there were going to be lots because there were tracks and they were shouting all over the place. And these are the first lot that we've seen. In the background you might just be able to hear the white-crested helmet shrikes going tick, 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 tick. A fairly substantial cow that we're looking at. I'm going to wait here, I'm not going to reverse. And then the others, there's the little one and that little one's mother. Christopher, an interesting question from you in Arizona. You say when the elephants show aggression to the guides, what is our best approach? Is it to raise our arms, or what's more effective, that or raising our voices? Christopher, without wanting to sound preachy, an elephant only gets aggressive if it feels threatened. This elephant is not being aggressive, it's being inquisitive. And if an elephant is genuinely aggressive, or because it feels so threatened, the best way to reduce that problem is to just move away. So even if it feels like you're being a little bit yellow-bellied or really livid, we're not here in the business of frightening animals, and we're not in the business of sort of extreme sports, because, well, I mean, this is not the place for it. This is a place for connection with the wilderness. And so if this was a 4.5-ton elephant bull, I had a clear road in front of me, I'd simply move away. It's only in extreme situations that I will raise my voice or shout at an elephant or hit the car or something like that. I just don't feel like it's necessary most of the time. And most of the time, if you've got yourself into a situation like that, well, you probably should have read the signs beforehand. And I've done it myself many times by mistake. So this animal is very clearly showing us what he thinks. He's being curious, but he's also shaking his head and giving the typical signs of an animal that's sort of uncomfortable with us being around. He's not particularly, because the older cows are here and they don't really, they're not affecting. They will tell him if there's any threat, and they're clearly not vaguely worried about us. It's so wonderful when that sort of thing happens. Hello Tanya, you're a new viewer and you want to know how many elephants there are normally in a herd. Tanya, it varies a huge amount, and especially with the time of season. But in this area, it's often not more than 8 to 10 elephants. Then you might get up to sort of 15, and then during the winter time, some of those little groups of 8 to 10 and 15, they agglomerate into much bigger herds, and they move to and from feeding and watering grounds together. And so they can get up to the size of about 100 elephants or so, but that is unusual. So this little group is quite typical for this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and there's an 8th one just sort of out behind them. We've got a little herd of 5 that we see quite often. One with the bottom third of her trunk missing. That's quite a small herd for this area, but 20 would be a large herd for here. And you read in the book sort of 15 is average. I haven't seen that. And Tegan, you say, How many years does it take for an elephant to grow to its full size? An elephant never gets to its full size until the day it dies, normally, Tegan. They do lose weight just before they die, but they actually keep growing until the day that they die. So a 45-year-old elephant bull is bigger than a 35-year-old elephant bull. They slow down the growing process, absolutely, but they never actually completely stop growing. I'm just very, very peacefully feeding here. Somehow finding enough to eat. And I was talking about the warthogs earlier and how they don't seem to be showing too many signs of nutritional stress. I think what you find with the elephants is that they are. I think some of the elephants are starting to look a little bit ropey. The little one that you're looking at is not too bad, but the one to the right there that was giving us these head shakes, giving us a bit of a rev. Well, if you look at his hips, you can see his hips are now starting to stick out a bit. Yeah. Yeah, the little one next to us just gave us a bit of a head shake. His mum's just walked across the road behind us. Here comes a fairly substantial bull. So Christopher, here we are. We have a decision to make. Here comes a big bull from the right. Is it a bull? He's now stopped behind a tree. I think it's a bull. He's coming towards us. Now, if I was unsure of his body language, if I was unsure of how he felt, in order to just decrease any risk and decrease the chance of escalating a situation, you just move away. You know, there'd be no point in me trying to stand him down and show how brave I was, because that's just not the point of what we do. It's not a bull, it's a cow. I can see between her front legs now. She's just quite a big cow. The rest of the herd is crossing behind us. It's a lovely sighting. They don't seem too perturbed by us, but you always watch them, always make sure that you are keeping an eye on their behavior. Alright everyone, that's going to be it from Brian and I today. Thank you very much for joining us on our little jaunt, especially to see those tiny little baby lions. That was very special this morning. We're going to just sit with these elephants for a bit longer, and while we do that, we'll hand you back to Jamie and her leopard cubs. We'll see you this afternoon. Bye-bye.
And two little identical bundles of fluff, one on the left and one not quite so clear on the right. Settling down, I think, for a morning now that they've played out the high spirits. Settling down for a morning of patiently waiting for Mom to come back, hopefully with news of breakfast. They don't know when she's coming back, they've got no idea. They just know that they have to wait here until she does. And I have no doubt that as we speak, Karula, she hasn't already caught something and is on her way, is furiously searching for a way to provide for these two little ones, who have provided us in turn with some of the most joyful moments that I have ever experienced. I think that may have been the most extraordinary leopard sighting of my life. It really truly was. Those leopard cubs playing like that in the glorious morning sunlight with bones, and as marvelous as our first sighting was of these little cubs and the time that we've spent with them, I think that them falling over each other, battering each other, grabbing everything that they could find, I truly feel as though it really doesn't get. That's becoming a bit of a catchphrase now. It really doesn't get better than this, which is going to become redundant if I keep saying it every time we have a marvelous moment. But I'm so glad that we got to share this with all of you. I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that Karula does make a kill somewhere on Djuma, but if she doesn't, well, at least we know that her two little ones, who have been furiously burning up energy, will have some breakfast to fill some empty bellies when she does return. we'll follow up on the sunset safari this afternoon, so you'll just have to come on, watch us in a couple of hours, and you'll be able to find out whether or not she has been successful. Chandra, thank you for all of your fantastic camera work as always. Chandra has also got a big smile on his face. I think he's enjoyed this as much as we have. And thank you to Kirst, Jerry, and the wonderful Chelsea in Final Control for directing us. Kirsty, I'm sorry if the cubs took every thought out of my mind and I stopped thinking. But most importantly, thank you to all of you for joining us on this fantastic sunrise safari. Have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are in the world, and we will catch up with you tomorrow. Bye-bye, everybody.